The following is an Outdoor Channel original production.
I'm Robin Berg. I'm an ex-Navy deep-sea diver and a marine naturalist. I've spent years filming and observing sharks in the wild.
And I'm Eli Martinez. I'm an expert on shark behavior. I'm on a mission to unravel the secret world of sharks and share what I've learned with you.
We're going to challenge everything you think you know about sharks. This is one of the most dangerous sharks in the world. Yet few humans will ever encounter this super predator in the wild. Because the Oceanic Whitetip Shark is a creature of the open ocean. Behind me is Cat Island in the Bahamas. It's way out here in the Atlantic Ocean. Just a few miles offshore, it drops down thousands of feet deep, and that is the perfect place to find the Oceanic Whitetip Shark, one of the most dangerous predators of the open sea. This is a rare opportunity to observe the behavior of the Oceanic Whitetip Shark. They spend their entire lives on the open sea, so not much is known about them. But they have a gruesome reputation. They're probably responsible for countless deaths of shipwreck survivors during the First and Second World Wars. But you can't blame a shark for being a shark. Eli and I want to understand more about this supreme predator of blue water. It's early morning, and we're heading a few miles offshore from Cat Island, where the Oceanic Whitetip sharks have recently been spotted. So Eli, let's talk about how these Oceanic Whitetip sharks were first discovered here off Cat Island in the Bahamas, and it's only been a few years since they were discovered, and it was by the big game fishermen, is that correct?
Yeah, the fishermen were coming out here, they'd hook up on a marlin, they'd be pulling it in, they'd start backing down their motors, and then boom, 3 Oceanics would show up. And they've been complaining about this for years, about these sharks coming in and stealing their catches, and that's how we found out about it, because fishermen love to tell stories.
Somebody's got a marlin on, and to help that guy out, they start backing the boat down, take a little bit of the pressure off the guy that's got the marlin hooked up, and after a while, the Oceanic Whitetip sharks, that was a dinner bell to them. So as soon as they hear that boat backing down, they know they've got something on and they come.
Yeah, I mean, they're really smart animals, and they picked up on those cues. And exactly, it was a dinner bell for them. They just show up when they hear those sounds.
Yeah, well, good thing for us, because we're going to hopefully find them just that same way. We're going to actually use the boat like a dinner bell. We're going to back the boat down a few times and see if the Oceanic Whitetips show up.
The Oceanic Whitetip is a stocky, powerful shark. They can reach lengths of 13 feet and weigh up to 370 pounds. They are big sharks, and they command your respect.
The Oceanic Whitetip shark is the 4th most dangerous shark to humans, behind the great white, the tiger shark, and the bull shark. But keep in mind, those numbers are based on known fatalities, documented cases. There are countless undocumented fatalities by Oceanic Whitetip sharks during the First and Second World War. If you are a sailor, a Marine, or an airman, and you were unlucky enough to have your ship sunk out from underneath you or your plane shot down, and you found yourself treading water in tropical or subtropical waters, and one of these guys showed up, or even worse, a number of them showed up, that would be your worst nightmare.
What fascinates me about the Oceanic Whitetip is, yes, they are stunningly beautiful animals, but they are also fearless predators. They're not shy, they'll come right up to divers and they want to bump you. But you can't let them bump you because that's part of their way of testing you, and you need to let them know that you're a formidable predator as well.
One of the most vivid memories I have about the Oceanic Whitetip shark was reading a story by Jacques Cousteau when I was 9 or 10 years old. They were way offshore, and an Oceanic Whitetip showed up. They got in the water and were filming it. The shark seemed completely relaxed. It had no aggression whatsoever. So they kept following it, and pretty soon they realized the shark had led them way away from their boat. The boat couldn't even see them to pick them up again. The next thing they knew, the atmosphere changed entirely, and that shark became very aggressive.
Our first challenge is finding the pack of Oceanic Whitetip sharks. They're migratory, and Cat Island is only one stop on their route. Can we locate the pack and get close enough to observe their behavior?
Blue Water Savages is brought to you by Wall Clippers and Trimmers. Real guys, real grooming. Visit wallrealguys.com.
So behind me is Cat Island, Bahamas. We're here searching for the Oceanic Whitetip. It's one of the most dangerous of the open ocean sharks, and we're hoping to find one. We haven't had any luck yet, but we got a really good captain. He knows where to go, and we're gonna go and see if we can find these sharks. You notice how we're backing the boat up? This is part of how we're attracting the Oceanics to the boat. What we're doing is we're replicating the sounds that the fishermen do whenever they got a fish on the line. And the Oceanics have learned, they've been conditioned to hear that sound and come running to the boat to try to see if there's anything that they can steal off the fishermen's lines. We're also using chum and fish oil to attract the sharks to the area. So far we haven't seen any sharks, but this is a process. It takes time. I mean, these are pelagic sharks. They're world travelers. They don't just hang around a certain area. You know, and the reason they come here is they migrate through the area, you know, because this is part of a path where they come in to find prey, to find game. And so now it's just waiting and waiting and waiting and watching water and waiting for the sharks to show up. But that's what you do when you come out here.
So with the hope of seeing our first shark, we keep the chum slick going. And finally, the first Oceanic Whitetip shark shows up, followed immediately by another.
So right now we have two Oceanic Whitetips right now hanging out by the boat. This is an extremely rare shark right here. And Cat Island is one of the few places in the world where you can find these sharks reliably, right? Because they've been overfished so bad that, you know, you can only find them in small areas. So Hawaii is one spot, the Red Sea is another, and Cat Island, Bahamas is pretty much right now the only place where you can reliably find them. With the Oceanic Whitetips, I mean, you have to be really careful with these animals. I mean, they deserve a lot of respect because they are predators. They're really big sharks, and they definitely demand your respect. What I like to do when we're in the water is, you know, you got to keep an eye on them. And rule number one, whenever you're diving with a dangerous shark like an Oceanic, is never allow them to touch your body. And because these sharks are really curious, they don't run into things very often because they are pelagic sharks. I want to keep an eye on them all the time, and I don't let them near my body. And because if they bump, a bump can easily turn to bite, and that's what we're trying to avoid. Because if an Oceanic bites you, I mean, it's game over because they do turn it on. They will turn on really fast.
I'm not sure about Eli, but I've got this strange feeling, like we're about to parachute into a forest full of wild tigers. This shark in particular is known for being fearless and aggressive. Chances are we'll be dealing with a number of them, but this is the reason we came to this remote island.
All right, brother, you ready, man? Yeah. Here we go.
We're greeted immediately by the biggest shark, a 10-footer that calmly looks us over. Multiple sharks appear. I have to keep shooting, but I also have to be aware of what's going on around me, especially behind me. Eli remains perfectly calm and never sees the whitetip sneaking up behind him. The most dangerous shark is the one you don't see coming. Luckily, this one veers off, but these are the risks you take diving with sharks. Understand that what you're seeing here is now becoming very rare. A wild pack of oceanic whitetip sharks completely surrounds us, and we could not be more thrilled. More oceanic whitetips are showing up. Eli signals. He now counts a total of 6 sharks. Many of the whitetips have escorts, like this rainbow runner that knows exactly where to stay to avoid being eaten, and to take advantage of any scraps when the shark feeds. Eli decides to shake things up a bit and rattles the box of fish chunks. The reaction is immediate. 2 sharks become agitated. Yet they still seem more curious than aggressive. Our first dive has gone well. We have found the pack of oceanic whitetips. Next, we're going to attempt something unusual. Will this shark, that lives only in the deep ocean, drift over the reef with us into shallow water? We're just a few miles offshore from Cat Island in the Bahamas. We've come to this remote location to find one of the rarest and most dangerous predators of the open sea, the Oceanic Whitetip Shark. So far, they've proved more curious than menacing, but we're fully aware of how quickly that can change. We're getting ready to try our first experiment. Will this pelagic shark that lives miles at sea drift with us into shallow water and possibly even feed? This would be very unusual behavior.
First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get in the water, we're gonna get them used to us being around, and hopefully we're gonna be able to do something different with them, which is actually bring them down to the sand and try to feed off of the sand. And since these are open ocean pelagic sharks, we're not really sure how they're gonna like it or even if they're gonna like it at all. Normally, once we get close to the shallow water, oceanics tend to take off. They prefer the open ocean. They're not really comfortable around the reef and the sand, but we're gonna see if we can try to get one down.
These sharks are as curious about us as we are of them, and we must appear quite odd. Keep in mind, sharks aren't looking for trouble. They're looking for a meal, and we're big and possibly dangerous. These sharks are constantly assessing anything they encounter for both weakness or risk. We now have 7 oceanic whitetips surrounding us. As we begin to drift closer to shallow water, will they become claustrophobic as we cross over the reef? Will they all head for the safety of open water? Or will some of them follow us into the shallows? We're now in 50 feet of water, and only 2 curious sharks have decided to follow us past the reef into the shallow water. The other 5 have disappeared. Eli investigates a stingray on the sandy bottom. Most sharks would see this ray as food, but oceanic whitetips are alien to the shallows, and the ray glides off unmolested. One of the sharks begins to feed. We are witnessing very unusual behavior. These sharks are open water nomads. Eli and I are fascinated to see them acting so relaxed and natural in shallow water.
That was awesome, man.
So Eli, we actually pulled it off. We got a couple of oceanic whitetip sharks to follow us in and drift right over the sand into 25 feet of water. This is an animal that lives miles at sea in thousands of feet of water. And we got a couple of them to follow us in and feel comfortable enough to feed in shallow water. That's really unusual behavior.
It is, because again, these are pelagic sharks. You know, they spend all their time in the open ocean. So for them to come into the shallows is extremely rare. And it really shows the different individuals, because when we started out, we had a bunch of sharks around us, and by the end, we only had 2. That just truly shows the different personalities of these sharks.
So it is, in your opinion, it really is a personality thing. Some of them are curious, some of them are bold, some of them are more timid, and some of them are just willing to just drift with these crazy people into the shallows and feel comfortable about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really feel like, you know, by doing this, we're able to document more of these animals and understand them a little bit better, so we can get a really complete picture of these sharks.
Our first experiment with the oceanic whitetip produced startling results, reminding us that our preconceived notions on shark behavior can often be wrong. Sharks are unpredictable. They are complex thinking animals, constantly assessing every situation. Our next experiment will be even more challenging. Eli Martinez will attempt to place an oceanic whitetip in a state of tonic immobility.
Trying to put a shark in a state of tonic immobility is a dangerous maneuver. However, if a shark allows you to get to that point where you can put them in that state of tonic, it means that that shark and the diver have built up some kind of trust, some kind of bond, and the animal is allowing this interaction to happen, and that's the magic. That's what we're trying to accomplish here, is trying to see if we can bond with the animal, even for a moment.
So throughout the show, you've heard us mention the terms tonic and tonic immobility. Eli, what is tonic immobility, and what purpose could it possibly serve in a shark's world?
Well, tonic immobility is a relaxed state that sharks go into. They're extremely sensitive around the nose and their fins. In some species, if you twist a shark's tail fin, they'll go completely to sleep. Other sharks, you rub their nose, they'll get loopy, they'll get dizzy, kind of relaxes them. Science is really not sure why it happens, but I believe personally it has to do with mating, with courtship.
Interesting.
You know, shark sex is really violent. The males will have to grab onto the female to hold them so that they can mate. I think that the reason tonic immobility happens is so that when they are in courtship, they can grab a fin, twist it, relax the female. It'll help hold them in place, and it minimizes the damage to the shark.
Captain Reynold Butler sets us up once again. More chum is added to the mix, and Eli and I gear up for our last dive with the oceanic whitetip sharks. We're greeted at the surface by a pack of oceanic whitetips, and at first they seem even more bold than the last dive. But as Eli begins to reach out to them, they shy away. To place one of these sharks in tonic immobility, Eli will have to get a solid grip on the snout. But they seem to sense he is up to something and keep their distance. Eli waves his hands to attract one of the sharks within range, but it turns away as he touches the nose. Another approaches and gives Eli the same response. Given enough time, Eli would probably win the trust of these sharks to pull this off. But we are running low on air, and our dive is almost over. Yet this experiment has been a success. this was still fascinating behavior. These sharks displayed caution mixed with curiosity. They are not killing machines, but top-level predators who survive by constantly weighing danger and opportunity.
Eli, what an amazing adventure. We got to swim with one of the greatest and one of the rarest open ocean predators, the Oceanic Whitetip Shark. And we got to observe some very unique behavior, maybe even be undocumented. But we did not succeed in putting one into tonic immobility.
Robin, it boils down to trust. These sharks don't know me very well. I haven't spent a lot of time with them, so it's really difficult to get them to come in close and want to interact. Just boils down to time in the water.
So watching Eli in action has certainly altered my view of humans who choose to interact with sharks. But I'm still a hard-boiled realist. I don't think there's anything fuzzy or soft about these animals, and they're certainly not going to let us get away with letting our guard down around them. But Eli has shown me a fascinating side of these animals that biologists will probably never see because they're looking at them differently.